Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Summer 2019. We're here for game number 2 between Gen G and Hanwha Life Esports, and Hanwha need to change something, and they need to change it fast, because these guys trashed them in game number 1, and it was largely because of Ruler. 38% of the damage done for his team, and that was with a Gangplank and an Azir both on this squad. But they won so quickly, those guys didn't get to ramp up, and the Kalista was all this game was about.
What a strange day, though, Atlas. We've been dangerously close to saying naughty words a lot, because a lot of one-sided kind of very definitive victories so far in tonight's play. 3-0 scoreline was very, very one-sided overall in our first 3. So our 4th game of the night, Gen G versus Hanwha Life Esports. No roster changes on either side. Was a legendary performance from Ruler on the Kalista. Not one that he always goes to by any means, that Kalista, but a great performance from him after his Tahm Kench used his flash early. We saw definitely the essence of why Karma comp plus Ruler definitely makes a lot of sense. Speaking of Karma, was first banned on the red side in game number 1. Hanwha Life could first pick it. Do they ban it on blue side?
Well, I don't know. Do Gen G leave it up and hope that Hanwha go for a different first pick? They could leave up a lot of priority picks here. They do have that red side, so as soon as you start leaving things up, the priority ban that you would otherwise get on the blue side sort of goes out the window. Tahm Kench has been banned away from Life, who's certainly been a standout performer for this team. Sejuani, certainly another first pickable champion. He's going to be taken off the board. Olaf might be there for Bono as this shakes out.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing a Xayah ban if this is the approach they're taking, because it feels like Gen G can first round Xayah Rakan on red side,
pretty
and that's
comfortably
something they've gone to again and again. Xayah's power level right now is really high, but there's a lot open as well, so there's always 2 different things to consider, and they just decide to ban away Kuzan's Azir. Azir seems a bit... Kuzan seems a bit bemused at this. This does mean the Karma is still up.
Do Gen G ban it is the question, because Hanwha will first pick it. And it is going to be banned away. Intelligent there from Gen G, because none of us want to see the Karma. Well, some people want to see the Karma.
We can't
it's
be
just
this
very...
down.
I know. A lot of people have been pretty vocal about
why do you say that?
Why do you hate Karma so much? Yeah, she is extraordinarily strong, but the reason we're saying it is because she's a bit too strong. When a champion doesn't have counterplay, it is less fun to have in the game.
Fast utility that's hard to kill and doesn't kill people is something that can frustrate. The Olaf has been very frequently banned against Hanwha Life. They'll first pick it. Again, the win rate on this champion is still down to the lower ebbs. It's gone up about 4% this week.
Yeah, it was down to what, 15, 14, something like that earlier in the week. So being able to launch itself up just a little bit.
And it doesn't seem like Xayah Rakan entirely will be claimed here, but I think we might see one of those 2, the Xayah, for example, taking a Peanuts pick, or maybe we're going down a different way. We're not sure here. For the side of Gen G, they've taken Aatrox, a confidence pick for Cuvée. Maybe not worrying about Sowan, for example, jumping on something like the Fiora. Now GP could farm out against this, as we've seen very, very recently.
Where does Peanut go? Do they decide to lock in a jungler here, or are they going to try and take a support? A Lux is something that we've seen picked in tandem with this, but I like it.
Yeah.
The Xayah is going to be picked up, and Life, he's looking down the barrel of that Rakan pick coming in 3rd, unless Hanwha try to pick that one away.
Now, Peanut's a Trundle player, and Trundle has a good matchup into Olaf, so I wouldn't hate taking the Trundle and just taking the highest power support available after a couple of ends. So, Sivillux, yeah, absolutely. That could definitely be considered here.
I want to see Key on this Lux. He has been, like we were saying, a notable Enchanter player, and the Pyke left a whole lot to be desired. Rakan, of course, is going to be snapped up here.
Yep.
I like your musing with the Trundle pickup, but we'll see whether Hanwha decide that they need to ban that one away, or whether Gen G can get away with picking it after this. Certainly would be a decent way of grabbing themselves a beefy front line, as well as some control around Ruler's movements in team fights with the Pillar.
And Hanwha Life have the Tempo Jungler to end all Tempo Junglers, and they have the Lux, who outside of level 1 has a lot of lane control on Xayah Rakan. So, you can understand where this comp is starting, and they want strong lanes and to play aggressive around this. But so many Korean teams, and we're being realistic with sample size here rather than facetious, have tried to make aggressive Olaf work like it does in the LPL, which are scrim partners to a lot of these LCK teams, and it has not worked. So given Hanwha Life's meager win total, we remain to be convinced that they could put an on-paper draft into practice.
Well, I mean, Griffin did demonstrate that they can do it, but I don't know whether it was all about the Olaf in that particular draft in our first series of the night. Gangplank going to be banned on Gen G's side, meaning that Cuvee will most likely be piloting this Aatrox. Of course, there's always that outside chance that Kuzan picks it up or Peanut plays it in the jungle. But banning away top laners like this sort of gives away to me that they are looking to put it towards the top side. Fiora and GP with decent matchups. Cuvee, of course, letting us know that the Gangplank is an option, as the Lulu is the last ban on Hanwha's side.
Peanut's Elise here would be pretty sexy, but I think it's kind of unlikely with how they've been playing.
Or Peanut's Karthus.
The Karthus would be...
Kuzan's Karthus. He played it in Challenger last split.
But this is almost certainly jungle. So, something that Peanut's been practicing. Look at that win rate. Again, LS is smiling.
Oh, yes, he is.
He could be sleeping after his 24-hour.
Or maybe he just won. Yeah, I was going to say, or maybe he just won a game in Teamfight Tactics and started streaming again. I'm not entirely sure. Haven't been keeping up because we've been here commentating some sweet League of Legends.
We'll see if Hanwha Life are ready for these. It feels like every game the blue side invade into a 3-buff attempt by red side Karthus players. So level 1 from Hanwha Life with a lot of tools. Going to be very interesting to track. Looking for solo laners here in the second round. So far, it's just going to be the Kennen.
So I'm going to be locking that one away. So no top Olaf shenanigans by the looks of things. Mid laner, 10 seconds to go. Attempt to make up his mind. Certainly a lot of options. I've liked his...
Syndra would be the old one, right?
Yeah. Oldie bit of goodie, but he goes back to the Zoe instead. Certainly a lot of team fight, a lot of chase down, a lot of options here for this composition on Hanwha's side, and Lux can certainly make any group of champions that want to dive forward very, very powerful. As that's a Lucian lock-in, and Kuzan back to his old favorite, and that's what happens when you've got a Karthus. Oh, man. Our friend LS would be so happy with this draft, Papa Smithy, because the only source of magic damage here is Rakan and Karthus, which means you ain't building a lot of magic resist.
And your friend and mine, me, and my own friend, is also hyped because weren't we having this conversation with the Korean casters?
Yeah.
Who's the best Lucian in the LCK? And Kuzan's name is right up there, even though it's a mid lane Lucian pick. This is a very intriguing pick here, and we kind of diagnosed something like the Elise could be coming in. Karthus, that's the nth degree, less lane pressure, but of course, a lot of magic damage. Freed up the Aatrox flex to be a true one, not worried about magic damage. Cool draft here from Gen G. First professional game for Peanut on the Death Slinger from the jungle.
Yeah, Jungle Karthus coming out does help his herbivore style that he's picked up in recent weeks.
I like that you said herbiverse, because that's definitely where Gen G have usually lived.
They're lived in the herbiverse. Thanks, Ambition. Hopefully he's watching the English stream with his LCK restream. Probably not, though, as we're having a look at the Hanwha composition. We'll see what they can make of it. Looks relatively similar to the one that they put together in our first game of the night, which can be scary. However, Gen G have gone off on a completely different tangent.
Do worry that if Hanwha Life don't get the right level 1 down, they could just be ardently blazed away by Gen G in game number 2.
And I'm going to be talking about it, Papa Smithy. I know you didn't like it all that much, but maybe you'll become a fan by the end of this game, because Kuzan's mid lane Lucian is coming to the LCK. It was demolishing people in Challenger, and now we get to see it on the biggest stage. Let's see how it goes as we get into game 2. Gen G fans always so incredibly loud, as it is nighttime here at Lowell Park. Could potentially be our final game of the night. Probably the fastest night that I've been here, Papa Smithy. It's normally going the distance when you've got old Atlas on the desk, but so far, we're speedrunning the LCK.
I'm not convinced we've had a 2-0-2-0 night. There's been a lot of 5 to 6 game nights, regardless of caster pairing. It's been very competitive here as teams are trying to size out the new meta and understand it completely, which, again, start of the season makes sense. Usually the second half of the season, there can be a lot of 2-0-2-0 nights. As late invade from Hanwha Life, so not the 3-buff attempt by a red side Karthus we've had at least 3 times in a row.
That's a pretty high value ward that Gen G had down there, though. Hanwha do get the ward of their own, as it is going to be Peanut getting a leash at the beginning. Anything surprising with the rune choices here? We've got Kennen coming in with the Klepto on So1's side, just wanting to abuse Cuve's matchup, who's gone for the Comet, the old favorite on the Aatrox.
I actually will say that the Kleptomancy choice from So1 is a surprise for me because, to me, the best way to win a game against Karthus is to not teamfight Karthus. And the moment you go Klepto, you're inviting, Gunblade into AP, into teamfights. I like the idea of on-hit, Cuvée style on the Kennen, just trying to beat him in the 1v1 and keep him low and keep him in the lane and on low health bars and not TPing out to teamfights, and then sieging with Zoe and wave clearing with Sip. So wave
grand entrance on the bottom side. Key goes very, very low. Not very low, but he doesn't have a lot of a health bar, so down to 200 and a half health.
Given how many Luxes we've had misplay level 1, I think it's
I was ready for first blood, actually.
It can definitely happen in this lane. The Lux Rune's not going to be surprised against Gauge supports. You will take Aftershock against Poke supports. You go the way of the Guardian, more often than not. Power farming from both. This is probably, in kind of the history of League, especially in Korea, the two fastest jungle farmers facing each other.
Well, we'll see whether Peanut can keep up here on his jungle Karthus for the first time, of course. Does hoover through the jungle very effectively, and that's how his playstyle has been. He's been favoring things like the Sejuani, things like the Skarner that we saw in game number 1. He's been getting around the jungle very, very quickly. So far, Bono and Peanut are even, as they're both towards the top side. Peanut doesn't have a lot of health bar, though. He's going to need to fight this one relatively effectively, but does have that smite back available once again.
It's actually pretty free once you play a few games to take almost no damage from camps. And like you say, with the smite, it was going to be trivial. Kuzan, when he plays the mid lane Lucian, goes press the attack, and where possible will take Ignite. Couldn't do that in this matchup. Needs Cleanse in order to not just be one Trouble Bubble into Axe into death. So had to go a little bit more defensive than he usually prefers. But yeah, we've blown through the jungle, and no point invading for camp information. They're all gone.
Yep, Peanut is going to go back home. You may as well head home and then look to see whether you can contest any of these Scuttle Crabs. Not entirely sure when Peanut actually wants to be finding Bono, if at all, alone as he's walking forward. But the great thing about being Karthus this game is that you have Kuzan on the Lucian. What does Lucian have? Pressure in the mid lane almost every single time in the early few levels, especially against casters like the Zoe, because you can see he's standing right up on his melee minions, just trying to put pressure on over and over again.
The way it works is that before the Zoe gets into, say, the Lost Chapter and kind of 4 to 5 points in queue and gets free, like, easy clear of the backline, Lucian just controls the wave a lot better. He can auto-attack it, his auto-attacks do more damage, he can push it, he can siege, he can do more things, but when you get that more kind of AFK wave push that gets there with casters, then the matchup changes a little bit. So we're not there just yet, but for now, Kuzan does hold all the cards.
Well, Trouble Bubble's not going to land here as Bono is set up for a potential gank. You can see Kuzan's positioning aggressively like he wants to in this matchup, but doesn't know where the jungler is. And is not going to bite off more than he can chew. Intelligent, reserved play here from the Lucian in the mid lane. Probably looking to go aggressive when the Hex Drinker comes in. I imagine that that's probably going to be his first item choice. His flash from Key misses the light binding. We've seen this before. It was very similar to that Bone Skewer from game 1.
But I'm smirking because
they're backing on a ward.
They are indeed. I don't like they're doing a good job of not showing this, but just going to give Poke. I'm smirking about that trade because that's your very even one. You usually support for AD carry. You're like, yep, beautiful trade. Good job support. You got the AD carry's flash. But it's a Rakan who can all in a squishy Lux who, if you notice, doesn't have barrier, doesn't have exhaust, just has hit that binding or miss it and be eminently squishy and dead.
Yeah.
And Desire without ult. So this is now really which jungler is going to respond to this faster, and with Bono on the bot side, you can kind of see why Key was making the play.
Yeah, and you can see why Lux is pretty good as well, is going to be able to keep the Olaf very healthy as they take the first Infernal Drake of the game once again.
It also provoked the kind of guaranteed back timer for Gen G, losing the flash and going back, and another pre-6-minute Drake start that we're seeing basically every game of week number 3.
Yeah, nothing that Gen G did about it either. You were questioning counterplay and when that would start happening. Well, game number 2 of this series certainly wasn't going to be that moment, as Tempt is able to shove this wave forward quite effectively. Actually has found himself some lane control. As Kuzan went back, he's actually going to go for the Bilgewater Cutlass as item number 1 by the looks of things. At least those are the components that he has. 10 CS is his advantage at the moment. Quite safe in this lane at this point. Doesn't feel like he needs the Hex Drinker this early on.
I think Lifesteal, given that you can spend most of the time behind either the melee minions after Tempt hits more levels, or the caster minions at this point. It's just fine to go for Blade. My kind of bigger quirk was, let's say it's Blade Hexdrinker or just Blade. What's second? Is it a Black Cleaver game so that Ruler's doing more damage, or is it Essence Reaver like the New Age Lucian build entails? So is it more power now to just be kind of more of that mid laner that usually has a 1-2 item spike, or is it, well, actually I'll have a Scaling Essence Reaver build 2, and then we just got 280 carries for you to deal with.
And Essence Reaver's pretty strong on this patch also. That's why we see so many Xayahs and so many Sivers. May as well get another one in there and try and abuse the power level of that item. Someone utilizing his Dematerializer to keep this lane shoved forward. Wonder how much money he actually has. He has gone for the on-hit build, regardless of taking this Kleptomancy. So, did listen to you, Papa Smithy.
But is it the on-hit build, or is it gun? You still can't
Oh,
know.
That's a good point.
It's
I get baited by this all the time.
You see, well, I mean, at the end of the day, you see Doran's Blade and Bilgewater, and unless you remember the context, it can definitely go either way. So
that has been happening a lot.
We'll see the tracking. I'm not a fan of going Blade the Ruined King Klepto. Like, we've seen it before. It has happened, but then you just don't have that extra oomph of the press the attack damage that we almost always see. So I defer to Cuvée on that one. I defer to numbers advantages. Oh, come on.
That's a whoopsie.
Come on. That's a... Look, at the end of the day, he actually gets away because there was a ward there, but yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah, now Gen G are making a mistake. They're on a control ward, and Tempt is going to freely steal this one away. Cleanse has to be blown as well, and that is a 2-for-1 that you would take any day of the week. Hanwha actually grabbing the first real positive here this game, as there's the quickness. Immediately the Civ is going down low. You can't spell shield. Death, as now the kill comes in. 2 for 2. 2 versus 2 on the bottom side, and Gen G will win.
And that's because Sungyun walks up, doesn't get the right timing, and goes down. Spell shield up, flash up, no problem. They didn't even engage on key. We wondered where the return would be, but it's a return 2v2. It's not even the summoner advantage that gets it.
And think about how much damage they had to do there, because the shield did have quite a few points. That's 3 points already for Key at level 5, and still Gen G had enough to get through that whole health bar.
We saw the Xayah Rakan coming. You'd have to think Hanwha Life did as well, but that's 2v2 execution. That's not going their way. They made the first force. Yeah. They're the first one that blinked when they got the flash for flash trade, but actually Gen G, the return to it.
Well, Kuzan here now has to play with a lot more respect. Doesn't have the cleanse available to get rid of the pesky trouble bubble. Sowan's getting a fair bit of money from Cuvée here. Having a look at this one more time.
Life controls. Gets level 6 and they instantly all in. Sungyun's not ready for it, right? You see the difference between a half a second and not. Spell shield comes in at about 180 health. So into the death chamber, Sungyun. Ruler versus Sungyun. There's only one in the race right now.
Absolutely. Ruler underneath his own turret now as well is very, very comfortable. Has his Corefield's Warhammer as well as a pickaxe. Well and truly on the way to his Essence Reaver. And does have a dagger there as well, so Berserker's Greed is going to be coming up. We'll see what he decides to do with item number 2 as Life has to grand entrance to exit. Awkwardly named ability there, but does get himself out of the way of Bono and his approach to the bottom lane.
Let's see how the boots difference goes here, because it's a boots 2 Merc Treads Rush makes sense against the Lux, against the pretty standard Mobies to just be able to curl those shields around team fights later on and potentially roam on the Lux. A lot of different things can happen here, because if you do poke out the boots of mobility, hitting that grand entrance is trivial for the Rakan. So kind of tricky here. Very easy to force out that flash again from the Lux, basically off cooldown.
Yeah. Find it interesting as well. It shows that Life is really respecting the light binding on the bottom side of the map from Key. And the trouble bubble as well, that will have that stun duration mitigated a little bit by those Mercury Treads. Bono's going to pay a visit towards the top side, but Cuvé's already getting out of the way. So one's going to dive forward, had the flash and the slicing maelstrom available. But once again, Cuvée heads up play.
When Gen G have looked strong, it's been Cuvée as a rockin' top lane that never got help. In the Maokai days, the carry days, on the Kennen, never got help. So good to see the top lane Ascents is still working. Wanted to point out it is Cinderhulk from the Olaf here.
Yeah.
Bono's not going for the newfangled LPL build, so damage is a little bit lower. Life walking in, this is a collapse.
Yep, they're going to get the flash out attempt very easily. That's the real one as well. Have to check, but can confirm. Gen G now looking over at an Infernal Drake that has spawned second. Not going to be as unlucky with the triple clouds that they got in game 1.
Get back into lane. Songyun's got a lot of turret plates on this roam timing, so that's good news for the Sivir. Lux versus Sivir, we always talk about how kind of 2 plates the minimum. Top side.
Yeah, Cuvee going to take a lot of damage here, and in fact, Soan got a lot of value off his Kleptomancy at the same time. Does have some vision available as well, as you can see. Peanut off to the side, thinking about a Wall of Pain gank.
He hates this because he wants to be power farming, and his Krugs have already respawned, but given all the turret plates and so much standing gold.
Okay, the quickness is just going to stand on top of this controller. It gets a flash immediately as the life binding does land onto Peanut. Final Spark does do a lot of work, but Peanut is at safe distance from this Hanwha Life squad. But now they have priority over the river, and the Infernal Drake might just be doubled here for the Hanwha squad.
A lot of ults used. and Rakan's ults both down. Can Gen G do anything? Peanut on no health. Surely they're done with the contest.
Yeah, and the teleport not available from Cuvee, but is up from Soan. So intelligent that they don't go for any sort of contest, but very dangerous given the fact that now there are 2 Infernal Drakes circling the Hanwha Life squad. And that is just free statistics that they're going to be very happy to have as mid-game rolls around.
Very interesting with where this game goes. The game goes on. There's a chance that if you poke out the right damage dealer, get a kill, team fights with the AP cannon will be viable. They have gone full on into the Gunblade here, so it is kind of my suspicion. Klepto usually does mean the AP side. Not always a trivial ask against the Karthus, but no kills on Karthus just yet. Not going to be the most of the stacks either, so given that, always the chance that Hanwha Life find the right fight, zoom in with the Sivir, get their kills, zoom out of the Death Defied, and come out unscathed.
Well, Cuvee actually winning this trade quite nicely, but Soan, look at the auto attack damage, and now has so much extra healing from his abilities as well. As his auto attacks, just straight up misses that cannon creep though. That was a tilter. Hanwha not exactly too far ahead. It is about 600 gold, the advantage here for the Hanwha squad. So we can't be talking about Gen G really falling off just yet, but Kuzan could be in trouble. Not quite. Key was holding position. They've got a great ward here over the wall if Kuzan does want to flex towards the top side. Decides not to. Peanut's cleared out all of his camps.
We suspected this was 0 Dark Harvest stacks in the first 14. Double Infernal on Hanwha Life. Gotta be careful.
Ardent Blaze is going to come in here as the culling is going to be eaten by the stopwatch. Life thinking about trying to get more as Bono goes over to Shelly. 4 members of Hanwha here, 5 at the ready with the cannon up towards the top side. Sivir making her way forward. Paddlestar doesn't find the mark. Trouble Bubble also going to go wide. That could mean that Gen G have just forced their way into this river. Shelly will reset, but Gen G have at least got Hanwha off this objective.
Soan was smart in that he ensured the relays. A lot of patience on the Rift Herald, so you do actually have to drag it pretty far in order to make sure it doesn't reset to the enemy. Back away from all of this. If Temp lands his poke with Ignite, with Double Inferno, the contest is impossible anyway, but so far the poke hasn't happened, and Gen G, they've pulled everyone here. They know Songyun doesn't have teleport, so they have to start it themselves.
And they know that Temp doesn't have flash, nor does Songyun, so it is more difficult to have 2 of their highest damage dealers without their escape tools. Songyun, though, is going to take advantage by taking this bottom lane out of turret. 15 minutes into the game, that means that Gen G aren't going to be able to get any turret plates with Shelly, but they might be able to get themselves some map control as Ruler might just be face-checking here. Some damage does go down. Light Binding goes wide. Loosen Singularity is decent, but no, not really any damage. As Ruler does put down the ward and spots this control. Trouble Bubble does come in. Kuzan has the cleanse, but decides not to use it. Light Binding comes in and the cleanse has to be used anyway. That is a big waste of a summoner spell that could have been used earlier. Teleport to come in for the flank. It's Peanut. Has to flash to get himself out. There it is. The final spark comes forward. Ruler up into the air, but already the first damage has been done. But Cuvee, so much damage off to the side, and Ruler finishes it off. The Zyre is huge. It's a 1-for-1 so far as Soan fell as well as Peanut.
Soan saw his Smeb-like moment, but it was too late. Already so close to the turret. Doesn't get anything on the side of Gen G. Not even a defensive flash. Only Karthus dying using his. So that means that the teleport flank doesn't actually have the inroads, and it honestly looked primed to just wreck the team of Gen G.
Yeah, Ruler does go back home though. This might mean that Hanwha could be able to get something done. Life is playing off to the side. Looks like Hanwha don't actually want to start any engage, but the Paddle Stars do need to be respected. as that was a hijacked heal utilized by Tempt in the mid. Sungyun just hoovering up minions left, right, and center, and it's not often that we get to talk about a 26 CS lead for someone over Ruler.
Not often that we don't see one use of the Requiem this early in the game. Flashed away, but the further engage is happening. Someone's going to die, and look, Peanut does die in this area, but so on. As you can see what he considers, because he's flashing over the fat part of the wall under a full health turret, basically. Doesn't pay any inroads. That means TP advantage for Gen G, but Hanwha Life have been able to pick up by far the lion's share of the early game, both turret plates and also the double Infernal Drake spawns. They've got a lot of damage behind them. And again, coming back to AP Cannon and Zoe, Gen G have a lot of damage. They can, especially if Xayah and Lucian stay alive, win team fights. Those aforementioned members can be popped as well. So feels like Gen G need to be on point with how they play the fights. They can't just have a front line, press the Requiem button, and have Aatrox do the rest.
And especially not when Peanut has been struggling to harvest up these stacks. I believe he's only got about 1 or 2 so far after that first initial check-in on the 0 that was at about 12.5 minutes into the game. Luden's Echo done like you were talking about. An attempt is at a decent clip, as the Cloud Drake will be the next one on the menu. Bono's going to help take that one down very easily, as Sungyun's going to go back and hoover up even more red dots. On this map, Bono's going to create a nuisance of himself, and Kuzan up towards the top side is trying to offer some pressure for Gen G.
There's always things that comps can't do. Gen G can't contest solo vision advantages from Hanwha Life at things like a Baron, or in this case, a Cloud Drake. If you walk up, pop to, for example, the Zoe, or someone else catching you in transition, they find it much easier to siege or play multiple lanes. So a Cloud Drake's not going to draw them into bad terrain. Who knows if even the Mountain Drake, and with all these early 5 to 6 minute Drakes, the 6th Drake is becoming almost the norm in week 3.
Yeah. It's something that we really barely were talking about in the spring season. The Dragon didn't get much of a look in, especially here in Korea, as Tempt does get the Feather Storm out of Ruler. That is huge. In that mid lane means that he's not going to be able to walk up. Also suffered a loss of a lot of his health bar at the same time. Yubei over to the side. Hanwha Life, 4 members here, ready. Try and challenge for this control ward. Not quite able to get him. And no life bindings to find anyone just yet. Rift Herald's going to be used in the mid lane, probably to help clear out minions, as that one was timing out. And there's the redemption. Of course, better Zoes get more redemptions. That's just how it works. As Shelly's going to start her march, and she's going to get stopped halfway through the lane.
That was not a Shelly that people will remember, but it's a Shelly that buys them 1 more minion wave. Probably no more than that. So if they don't engage on this, it's much more about the timer being about to reach 0. It's not going to buy them a lot. Doesn't buy them a plate. Doesn't buy them any gold. And it seems like they're going to give up this turret anyway. So sad Rift Herald compounds an early gold lead for Hanwha Life. Again, it's touching distance for Gen G, but the double Infernal muddies the water and then some.
Yeah, it's really hard to know who has scaling advantage when, you know, Hanwha do have some champions that work very well when you get to the later stages of the game. Kennen, that has an item lead like he definitely does now, Kleptomancy in hand as well, will be able to rip through this team in a team fight, not to mention Sivir always being able to do that. But having those Infernal Drakes means that you look at this Karthus and the Aatrox, and are they actually going to get to that point where the team fight is something that they can just absolutely decimate?
There's a lot more conditionals for me in Gen G's draft than there are on the side of Hanwha Life. And what I mean by that is, you can see the fight they win, right? With Requiem coming in, Aatrox getting the first kill, Rakan's there for a big engage. But Sungyun has to run away.
Yeah, gets himself an ult, but now Sungyun's going to use that one aggressively. Key is boosting it towards the top side with his Moby boots. Bono's here as well. Ragnarok is going to get popped. Relentless Pursuit is in. Cleanse is down. Final Spark isn't quite going to land it, but the last auto from Sungyun will seal the deal. Kuzan used absolutely everything, and it wasn't enough.
Fans losing their minds, hoping he could get out, but there's just too much chase there on the side of Hanwha Life. They're going to take the turret as well. Tripping up in your execution, getting to those fights where alluding to Atlas is very likely when Zoe's this big. The pick tools are there, the AoE control of the cannon is front-loaded rather than the Aatrox cleaning up a fight. Feels like more often than not, reliably Hanwha Life have tools to stop Gen G's team fight, but Gen G can just outplay or show us the level of performance they did in game number 1. always a chance for them as well.
Yeah. Still, you can't count out Akartha's composition, especially when Peanut has been farming himself back up to relevance. Does have now double pen and the Runic Echoes. As we see this one more time, Kuzan realizes the error of his ways and watches as he just gets hunted down. I'm actually surprised he used so many summoner spells here when it wasn't likely he was going to get out.
Only hope is you get 2-for-1 in flashes and die. Maybe you can take down Lux, who did flash. You can take down Olaf, who did flash. Unlikely, not a silver lining, but something that Gen G can point to. Look at the enemy. Couple of summoners down, but the map control is still pretty decent. The defensive wards are still there, but moments like this, and wardings go down.
Yeah, life almost going down as well. Flashed before his eyes, and certainly flashed before Ruler's eyes. Battle Dance and Grand Entrance used in order to get him out of the way.
I'm smirking again because flashing before his eyes in life, another funny one.
Yeah.
He's just got a good name.
He does.
How did no one use that name before?
And also flashing before his eyes as a Rakan. I thought it was a little bit too easy. Gen G now in the mid lane. Try and clear out some more creeps as Ruler's just trying to get towards his Infinity Edge. It's a conspicuous longsword that might mean that Hexdrink is coming in next.
Trying to work out what Gen G have. What can Gen G do with the game? Again, hasn't just hilariously snowballed away from them. Yes. They got a lot of Baron damage, but not a lot of Baron tankiness, so that is a possibility of Hanwha Life are way out of position. Karthus plus double 80 carry, enough said. If someone face checks Life, definitely some pick power and good damage behind that, but we already talked about how approaching something like a Mountain Drake they don't already have vision prepped on, difficult, so we'll be giving up the Mountain Drake and a third Infernal spawning.
Goodness gracious me.
Feels like pre-30, Gen G kind of have to put in, punch their ticket and fight. Otherwise, if they just leave everything open to Hanwha Life, comp or not, the numbers can't be denied.
Yeah. It's going to get scarier and scarier as this game goes on, and Gen G's idea of let's try and scale our way into this game is going to be a really tough one against triple Infernal and Mountain Drake if that third Infernal is going to come in. But the Drake after that could even be a question mark because once you get to that hyper late game, the trade of Elder Drake and the Baron will mean that Hanwha gets to put Gen G into a lose-lose scenario. They go towards the Elder. If Gen G doesn't fight for it, then the Elder Drake is gigantic. And if Gen G tries to deny it, then Hanwha get themselves a free Baron.
Let's talk a little bit about the item spot we're at right now, because we wondered out loud, what are we doing with our Lucian build? It is 2-item Lucian. Yeah, we don't see this in the bot lane anymore. Deft led the way on the Essence Reaver, and the Black Cleaver dropped from there. It's 2 items in the melee, which means that Ruler will do more damage if he's hitting the target. Same target as Lucian than you wouldn't reasonably expect for a no IE 2.5 item Xayah. That's relevant. So double pen and also Shred plus a Xayah building damage means that's a lot of single target damage. So the Rakan pick is probably more reliable than most scenarios around 24 minutes with 39k gold on the Gen G side, but getting the Karthus into the fight against double Infernal Zoe, very difficult indeed. Cannon damage, gonna be real. A lot of things are there for Hanwha Life, and it's only these small counterpoints, these small scenarios, kind of an else Hanwha Life focus that we're trying to bring up.
Yeah, it can be quite difficult here, especially now that the Karthus' farming spree has been put on hold, because you can see Bono's just camping. These are popcorn chickens denying that from Peanut over and over again to make sure that he's never power farming his way into a victorious position. Yes, he's in touching distance with the Olaf, but this is a tank Olaf that's going to do his job as Sangyun has to flash. That could actually be very relevant, the ultimate and flash now on cooldown.
Couple too many whoopsies in this series from Sangyun, one of our veteran players, ultra reliable in terms of his performance, in spite of his team's kind of waverings up and down, as Hanwha Life have been.
Yeah, him and Ruler have a few things in common in that regard.
A little bit off. His teammates have definitely picked up the slack this game, so there's no... It doesn't feel like it's going to be... That's going to be the game-breaking moment, but like we mentioned, pick power, damage behind it, there's a chance it could happen.
Yeah, that's a good blade caller. Goes the Grand Entrance, but Life is just playing with his food. Bono very tanky, like we were mentioning before, and was even sitting on his shield.
Ruler and Life are doing a lot, even if they're not getting a lot. They got a flash from the Sivir.
Yeah.
They don't even blow the ult from Bono, but they're trying to make things happen. However, now...
Yep, Ruler's going to flash very, very early. Does have the Feather Storm, but I'm not sure it's going to save him. Blade Caller comes in. He has to walk through the final spark as he does fall down. Cuvee was thinking about the flank, but he didn't want to do it without Ruler alive, and Gen G once again just lose one.
Ruler and Life have been buying time by looking for picks, by trying to get in the head of Hanwha Life, but now, 26 minutes in, Mountain, double Infernal. You got to stop Baron here, Hanwha Life. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, Life over here. Kuzan is in. They do still have an AD carry on the side of Gen G as Peanut is threatening off to the side. Trouble Bubble lands onto the Aatrox, and this is a kill opportunity right now. Cuvee gets a few shields. Wall of Pain is there to try and protect, but it's not going to protect you from that. Tempt in there with the Paddle Star of Death. And Cuvee's going to go down. 43 seconds until Teleport can bring him back in. Ruler has respawned. Peanut does have some damage. Wants to get his Death Defy body into this pit and has Flash available. But Trouble Bubbles are flying through. So one's in there as well. And Peanut very early on the stopwatch because he's so close to dead as now Life able to get himself out of the fight. Tempt is going to go golden and eventually does fall down as Kuzan wants to get into this pit. There's no smite available. Bono secures it very easily. And Hanwha Life will get out 4 members with a Baron Buff.
You just see how trusty Hanwha Life's comp with all their pick power and the Infernals and damage behind them is, in spite of 1 member going down. Tempt too bold on the back end of the pit. Baron goes the way of Hanwha Life, and now the Zoe Lux comp has Baron. How did Gen G not just watch? They've got some wave clear against Baron, against Crazy Poke. Very hard to stop Hanwha Life breaking the base on their first Baron.
Yeah, it was a really nice knock up there from Life to make sure that Tempt does go down in this particular exchange and some money goes into the pocket of Peanut, but otherwise, this is all about Hanwha. Tempt playing that Zoe very, very well to get the initial health bars low as we go back to live, and once again, we've got posturing because Gen G cannot give up another Infernal Drake.
And they found no spot for Requiem. 28 minutes, 20 in, no Requiem so far this game. Coming through from Peanut, more brawling from Bono.
Yeah, Life wanting to hold on to his cooldowns here. Doesn't want to have to wait. Now it's the engage potential for Hanwha Life. They know that Life isn't going to be able to get that one through. It's Ruler up to the side. They're doing a lot of damage. Peanut is in position for a smite, but he doesn't want to go into a 50-50 moment. Losing Singularity's there. It is the smite! Picked up by Peanut. And Wall of Pain is available there as well to make sure that Hanwha can't actually get anything, but they have the inroad to the inner turret in the mid lane, but not a minion wave to deal with it just yet. It will be corralled towards this one, and that one should go down.
But probably enough time for a recall here. Wait and see. With the minion wave coming, there's not going to be... They're not going to lose Inhibitor, which is the most important thing. And the Infernal, very against the flow of the game. If Tempt had landed any poke, probably would have been impossible, but Double Bubbles were going wide. Cuvee actually a bit optimistic walking through the blue side jungle. That's not yours anymore, Cuvee.
Yeah, not going to get punished for it at this stage. Tempt, he wanted to get himself a blue buff, and that is why they didn't turn on him immediately. Songyin and Key now just transitioning through this red side jungle. Thankfully, for Gen G fans, they've got some control vision in these inroads here. Inner turret falling down means that having any control here towards the top side is really, really dangerous, but at least now they can guarantee some Krugs, as Peanut is obviously very distressed that Kuzan just took away some of those. He needs as much farm as he can get. As his Karthus at this stage, Melanonomicon was completed as item number 2 after the Runic Echoes, and now does have a relatively close Zhonya's on the way.
First game of the night that hasn't been just done straight up by 30 minutes. You know, this game still extends, I believe, first game over a 30-minute timer. In day number 2 of week number 3.
Our lowest gold lead at 30 minutes, most definitely. 5,000.
Again, double Infernal, Baron buff 40 seconds. There's a lot going on for the side of Hanwha Life, but because of, like you say, not this being unassailable, do wonder if Gen G can find a miracle, pull one out of a hat. It's time for the magic tricks. Do they have it?
Well, you can see Life, he really wants to get this flank, and with the base gates, with Cuvee lying in wait also, and Battle Dance as well as Grand Entrance and the quickness available, we know that Gen G, that Life is very, very good at starting these off. He does have a Zeke's Convergence as well, and if they do start with the quickness, it means Ruler will be doing an extra buttload of damage.
And here's a point of business. The first Baron buff with the Sivir Wave Clear and Lux Zoe didn't break the base. That's actually really relevant. They had a comp here that is ultra god tier with Baron. Can it away a side lane, and no longer can Aatrox wave clear against him. Zoe Lux walk up, throw out their stuff, and it kind of covers most of the lane if you just spread it out. And from there, it seemed kind of inevitable they break the base on the first Baron. That hasn't happened, which means that Gen G might be able to get another reset, and again, might be able to force Hanwha Life to trip up on their execution around the next Baron.
Yeah, might be able to fight a round one for themselves. Losing Singularity gets Keys and Vision here of this area. So does get himself the Gunblade onto Cuvee, but not going to find too much more as, okay, that's a decent final spark, and does get the Featherstorm out of Ruler, who doesn't exactly lose a lot of his health bar.
He has a full maul, so he has a lot of magic resist already in the build.
Yeah.
Still was scared enough to use the Featherstorm, was worried about an axe behind that proceeding.
I'm enjoying Keys' luck so far this game.
Hey, what did we ask for in game number 1? We didn't get an enchantment. We're going to hear the... Oh, pop, they want to break the base now.
Yep, they're going to try to. Half the health bar now on this one as Kuzan throws out the culling. Tempt is going to tank a lot of it as he portal jumps forward. But as he didn't land the bubble, means that only half the health bar of that one is going to go down. And Gen G, some more respite is gifted over to them as Hanwha are going to opt in to a reset a minute before the Baron.
32 minutes, still no Requiem. Gonna have to write a diary. Gonna definitely note down that number. I feel like people will be talking about it. Yeah. There wasn't any obvious places where the Requiem wasn't used, and yet it feels like the Requiem is being saved for kills or saved for a full-on 5v5 commit that goes a long time and not being used preemptively like we've seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Used a lot, right? A lot of, let's lower them.
Cuz just pressed R because it was available in a lot of his Karthus games.
But remember that Cuz pressed R because he had mates that could benefit for that. And that's not just while your AD carry can benefit because they're lower health, you can kill them. It's Aatrox Pike in that game, right? Where you could get people low. They have an Aatrox. So there is a chance that starting a fight with a Requiem and then Aatrox getting a first kill could win them a fight. But right now, that has not been the call from Gen G, and the cooldown remains unpressed.
And now with only one Zhonya's completed, there's a stopwatch available for Sangyun, but getting that button with a Requiem is certainly worth it. They use it preemptively as Kuzan, 1 versus 2, gets hit by the Trouble Bubble Cleanse. Comes out once again. Hanwha Life now with a lot of opportunity as Ruler, not exactly with the movement speed that he had in the last game with their triple Cloud Drake.
Kuzan actually kiting the Raptors back a couple of times. This means he gets more and more lifesteal, so he will be able to stay in this fight. No one poked out just yet. Tempt, he's looking for that prize bubble that can really just decide a Baron. We talked about Gen G getting a chance to defend Baron. This is their moment. Watch Life. He has to be the playmaker.
Yep, he is looking for it. You know that he wants this one. The Ghost comes out from Tempt, the one that he hijacked from earlier. Undertows trying to find the mark. You can see now with all these items that Sangyun's put together, he has the Infinity Edge. Ruler does not. And now Bono running over this wall of pain.
They're doing a good job of always asking the question. When you're ahead, always think about the ways you could lose the game, and where is Life? Where is Life? Where is Rakan? That has to be asked again and again from Hanwha Life. They haven't tripped up yet.
Sangyun, though, he's going to be able to take the red buff, and despite the fact that they are playing reserved, Hanwha Life have been able to bully out all of the vision around this red side jungle. The Baron has been started with 2 members, and if one of them Sangyun, this is going to go down very, very quickly. There is a ward in this pit, though, as Gen G understand that they can get on over here. Peanut with the Wall of Pain now on cooldown. That's a Trouble Bubble landing, and that means that Cuvee has to use a very early stasis. Can Peanut actually get into this pit? He is! He is in there! Can he get it with a lay waste? No, he can't. Bono secures the Baron. The first Requiem comes in. Is it actually going to do anything is the question, as it is. The cannon falling down. Final Spark lands onto Cuvee, but he does manage to get that reset. 30% of his health bar is in. Umbral Dash gets him over the wall. That is going to be to relative safety, but you can see that Hanwha have the inside track to the Gen G base. This is a dead turret on the top side. They're corralling the Gen G members.
Temp's out of mana though, so he doesn't do much damage here, remember that.
Yeah, teleport now going to be utilized as well. That's going to get Cuvee back with a full health bar, and now Hanwha are the team that have to be scared. Good first knock-up. Infernal Chains does get the Ragnarok out of Bono. Peanut with 9 seconds to go. No Requiem, remember. Baron secured by Hanwha, but that was a dicey one.
And Gen G's blushes was spared by Tempt being out of mana on the chase. Could have potentially baited his team into a loss with Baron if they'd just gone on really, really thoughtlessly for an extended fight. We get the replay here. Peanut tries to get in, but easy to turn on him, right? And ensure that there's no smite. You cannot use smite during death to fight in case you're unclear on that interaction. First, Requiem around 3450. just to get the health bars lower. It lets Cuvee get into his passive. He can walk down. It ends up being way more even than you might expect with how the first 35 minutes have gone. Does mean Gen G gets another reset, but undeniable Hanwha Life walk away with the Baron, kill this Mountain Drake, and then there's going to be a whole lot of things post 40 to be picked up.
Yeah, Cuvee with eyes on the members of Hanwha Life. Is just down towards the bottom side. Bono's going to move on over to try and take him down as Cuvee, yes, playing with, flirting with death just a little bit as Sangyun's about 3 crits away from taking his whole health bar. Not exactly a tanky gentleman on the Aatrox is Cuvee.
Now Hanwha Life basically have everything. They have the poke machine in Zoe. No answer on Gen G for that. No exhaust for the AP Cannon, who has a pretty sweet hat. The Sivir's ricochets are accidentally killing people like Ruler and Kuzan through minion waves. Everything set up, but here we go.
Yep, quickness is popped here from Life. He's just going to battle dance the backline though and not actually able to get in. That is a wasted ultimate on Gen G's side. It was trying to buy time, but it's not going to get anything. Another final spark comes in. Cuvee down to half health, has to use the World Ender just to try and escape. 2 ultimates used to no avail on Gen G's side. Spells the death of the inhibitor first. Now potentially more. Blade Caller gets 2. As Ruler's off the backside. And now with the Baron buff still circling Hanwha, they're going to try and claim more.
They're going to go for pretty much the tutorial end to this one though. Not playing top lane just yet, but Sivir getting melee autos onto an inner turret, inhibitor turret in the mid lane. If you try to walk up again, no quickness this time, no chance.
Yep, just quietly it is a 10,000 gold lead. As you can see, Grand Entrance has to be used to exit. That is about how you know that Gen G are on the back foot. Kuzan just clearing out minion waves. Ruler has basically done nothing this game. He hasn't found the inroad onto Hanwha. They've been navigating their team composition so well. You may talk about things like getting some good Dragon RNG, but they've just been the better players on the map in game number 2, and that is so difficult after how badly they lost in game 1.
Feels like Hanwha Life are just waiting to close this one down and draw out that game number 3, Atlas. Really hard to see how Gen G find anything. Quickness available again. That's about all they got.
Yeah, well, Battle Dance is going to come forward, but doesn't find the Grand Entrance. Does get an exhaust out, but Ruler, he's going to lose his life. The heal does come in. He survives for the moment, but he has to get onto the fountain. Infernal Chains are going to be broken effortlessly from Hanwha as they look to chip down these Nexus turrets. And by chip, I mean obliterate. One of them almost to fall. It's only a siege minion auto attack, and that one's going to be taken. Peanut underneath this turret. These turrets does have some wave clear, but he needs to get rid of champions. He needs to get rid of Hanwha Life. Otherwise, this is going to be all over. It's a desperate attempt at a fight here as Requiem's going to be utilized in the back line. It does go down, but it's just tickling these Hanwha members. Double kill already for Soon. The Nexus is going to fall as an afterthought by the looks of things as Sangyun is flashing onto Ruler. He's getting the autos onto Cuvee. The fountain is where you belong, gentlemen. As we're going to game 3, Hanwha showing signs of life.
Hanwha Life get that Olaf and make their Olaf draft work, make their early tempo work. As things shook out at the end, just no way for these AD carries to get into fights, no relevance from Peanut, and just not enough skirmishing, in my opinion, happened in this particular game to make something like the Karthus work. The fact that he had no Dark Harvest stack, the fact that the fights happened later, it wasn't that he was doing wrong things, it's just that things weren't happening around the pick that meant that the Karthus draft together never came together. So it just felt like kind of like the Olaf Karma draft, a draft that looked cool on paper, but first professional game for the Karthus just didn't come together for Peanut and Gen G.
And I feel like what Peanut should have done is hit level 6 and try and get a Spell Shield baited out of the bottom lane and then just claimed pressure with the fact that he could press his R button. You know, like, there are just a lot of opportunities that you can use a proactive Requiem to get things going on the map, and not seeing it for 30 minutes is never the answer, right? They may as well have had a 30-minute cooldown at the beginning of the game.
The sports expression is I want to leave it all on the pitch, you know, after a game. It just feels like there were things they could be doing that required some risk they chose not to do, not to do, and then double Infernal. That, oh, I wish it wasn't double Infernal. And the Baron goes down, and. They just piled on pretty kind of free advantages to Hanwha Life and Gen G. Eventually, by declining so much, it's just like when your friend declines invites enough and you just don't invite them anymore, is kind of what happened here, because by the end, Gen G just didn't have an invitation to fight. It looked a bit sad, and the game ended.
Yeah, and these two gentlemen on your screen right here, despite the fact that they were able to get a kill in that 2v2 on the bottom side, everything just went wrong elsewhere on the map. I think finger needs to be pointed towards Peanut for inaction in the early game, or I don't know. It's a really worrisome sign because we were getting excited. We were ready to be happy about Gen G in game number 1, and they went back to their old ways of we're just going to sit back and hope the game wins itself.
There's good scaling and there's bad scaling. There's times for scaling, there's not. You understand Karthus scaling, but you got to brawl. If you're Keystone, you know, everyone will go into the same Keystone there. Unfortunately, just no value there. No Dark Harvest stacks.
You got to harvest in order to get Dark Harvest stacks, and he wasn't doing any harvesting other than the monsters on the map, and even then, it was Olaf, tank Olaf, that was able to farm faster than that of the Karthus. And that's when, you know, I mean, Bono is, by going that tank build, is also saying, I want to focus more on that late game. I want to be a frontline on this Olaf, and he did that really, really well. And Bono is a player that I wouldn't have expected to play that more reserved style on the Olaf. I thought as soon as you're allowed to build a warrior enchant on him, Bono would be all there as quickly as possible. Not the case, and they come out with the win.
Not the case, and now a very interesting final game.
Yeah, exactly right. Game number 3 right around the corner. Don't go anywhere.
이제 들어온다 이거.
아.
이번 아래.
루시안.
네.
나 그냥 있어.
오빠 안 보이고.
야, 좀 죽여봐.
가자.
야, 좀 죽여. 우리가 죽지 마, 이거.
호빵.
아, 그 누구야, 이거. 야, 좀 죽여.
되겠다.
아, 다행이다.